You're supposed to spend 24 hours thinking about a loss, move on. We're not doing that here. A look back at what we saw and the frustrations continue. Plus, usually it's a bye week. We hear from the coordinators. Brian Ferentz not going to be offered up this week. Oh boy. Here we go. Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Well, I did it again. I'll look back at what we saw from Saturday afternoon into the evening and the Hawkeyes' devastating 12-10 loss to Minnesota. Do it each and every week, win, lose, or draw. And that's where we are right now. I'll look back at what we saw in the football game. Also have numbers coming up from you today from Pro Football Focus. And the coordinators not being made available this week. What a bad precedent is being set here by Kirk Ferentz as things get uglier and uglier. It feels like he becomes more and more insular, and that legacy that he has built up of a quarter century of some pretty good football starting to dissipate very quickly, and we will get into that here today. But let's take a look back at what we saw. A couple of notes. And first of all, if you listen to the Instant Reaction podcast or watch us on YouTube, thank you as always for that. Know a lot of people were listening, downloading, and viewing, and always greatly appreciate everybody that was listening in. I didn't have it. Normally like to go up to about a half hour after the game, and I couldn't. The frustration level was high. Uh, I just I ran out of steam. And it's going to happen from time to time. My voice still not recovered from hollering in Kinnick Stadium and hollering at PJ Fleck and the rest of the crew. Um, so it was not, it was a very frustrating day. And, the 24-hour rule. And this one just lingers longer. It really does. This is one that is going to stick with you. And with the bye week, look, the bye week's a great thing for this team. They need it. After 8 straight weeks of football, the injuries that have piled up, the possibility of getting Noah Shannon back in November. This team needs a break. Us as a fan base, though, you want to see the team out there again, right? It's tough to swallow this one. And if you're somebody like me that loves this rivalry game, loves Floyd or Rosedale, loves the story, grew up in North Iowa like I did, yeah, it sucks. It really does. This sucks. And this is one I haven't been able to flush. And obviously the main reason for that is the play call with inside 2 minutes left and the punt return by Cooper DeJean and being robbed of what would have gone down as one of the most incredible plays in Iowa football history. You think back, Rob Houtland kicking the field goal to beat Michigan in the number 1 versus number 2 game in 1985. Great moment in a 12-10 game, same as this one. But it's still a short walk-off field goal, right? Beating Michigan, beating Penn State in the walk-off varieties that they did. Keith Duncan against Michigan. The win against Penn State with Daniel Murray. Great wins. But they're field goals, right? This was different. And though it wasn't a walk-off, another walk-off victory, 7 getting 6, right? Marvin McNutt against Michigan State in 2009. That was incredible. The Capital One Bowl with Drew Tate, but that was also the coaching staff's ineptitude of clock management that led to that play. This felt different because as poorly as Iowa played offensively, as bad as Deacon Hill was, as stagnant as the running game got, to have Cooper DeJean, he is a beloved figure in the state. A guy that grew up in the state, small town kid. That's just an incredible athlete. and doing what he did. And thinking back to his freshman year, he never played cornerback before in his life. And he goes out there and he's playing it the last couple of games of the year. He's so different. And to have him make that play and to have 6 guys surrounding him, all 6 of them, by the way, that didn't think he called for a fair catch, that didn't stop because of that. And the letter of the law is to negate that aside. And to have that taken away is frustrating. And to the letter of the law, was it correct? Could you determine that Cooper DeJean was making some kind of motion with his left hand as he was pointing at the football that you could possibly interpret as making the illegal fair catch call? You could. Now, also, to overturn a call, my belief is that it has to be something that is absolutely, there's no ambiguity to it, right? There wasn't this play. And try running with your arm out pointing and have your left arm just, stagnant? Is that what he's supposed to do? No, the field level view of it makes it even more damning. And then you hear the stories on Twitter. Jase Medical, a guy that's had some stories before, saying that the booth replay official is from Minnesota grad. Tim O'Day, who was the head official for this football game, was also a sideline official for the game last year against Minnesota. He was the one that incorrectly called Jack Campbell out on the touchdown that would have given Iowa the lead at the time. Iowa, of course, gets the win in that one. It adds a lot of questions. And this is not to say that the game was fixed. It's not to say that this crew had money on it. That's not what this is. But it leads to questions. That's all it is, questions. When you have these kind of things happen, that's where we are. And the state of Iowa wanted to investigate because of a tip that they got on a student athlete. Doesn't this something need to be looked at? I don't know. But it is very, very interesting. I think that's a word that Kirk used yesterday, right? Interesting. It's very interesting that the same official that blew a call a year ago in the Iowa-Minnesota game blows it again. It's very interesting that this official blew a game, Oklahoma State Central Michigan, in 2016. It's interesting. We'll leave it at that. More back into the game and a little bit deeper look into things. The numbers from Pro Football Focus, the legacy of Kirk Ferentz and coordinators not being available. We got a lot to talk about. We got a busy week. It's a bye week. We got tons to dissect and talk about that, and we will do that as we continue here. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. I will tell you, this is something that I definitely needed today after having a little fun yesterday. Absolutely having some fun, have a few cocktails, and watching the NFL throughout the course of the day. I was not going to put something in there that had any booze in it. That was not how I was feeling today. Athletic Brewing, well, they got you. Time for your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Cooper DeJean, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Cooper DeJean won the game. The officials took it away. That is your game changer, because that was an absolute game changer in that one. Cooper DeJean, though it will not officially go down in the record books, he is our game changer of the week with that play. And just watching it and watching the players surrounding him and the short bursts that he has in small areas, it's unlike anything we've seen before. It's absolutely incredible. Well, Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning, beating out full-strength beers in global competitions. They're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety and fit for all times, watching the big game or your kids' game, tackling a workout or just tackling work. No hangovers ever. You can find Athletic in store, online, and at bars all across the country. They're the fastest growing non-alcoholic brewery in the U.S., so get on board with your favorite. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or just buy them online athleticbrewing.com is where you go. And if you're a first-time customer, you can use code Locked On. That's going to get you 15% off your first online order. Code Locked On at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer. Exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Trent Condon back with you once again on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Again, big shout out to everybody that checked in with the Instant Reaction podcast. Really enjoy those and ability to go off the cuff a little bit more. You have that chance to go out there with the raw emotion, and that raw emotion's still there, boy. As I said at the top, this one is very difficult to swallow. Going through and watching the game. So Iowa marches down the field, gets a field goal out of it. Deacon Hill missed a wide open Seth Anderson. He was just running a drag route across the middle. He was late getting the ball. And that was a story throughout the course of the day. Just so late getting it out. And one of the two fumbles that he had in the football game, it was getting the ball out late. The frustrating element, as Kirk said, well, we watch practice and he's the best guy. Well, there's two ways to look at that. Okay, that's fine. If that's your best guy, you're screwed because he's not good. I mean, that's the easiest component here. Guy's completing 36% of his passes now since he came in the Michigan State game. He's not good. It's frank, and it's true. Nobody can look at him and say he's a good quarterback because he's not. All right, that's the best he got. So be it. What are you doing to help him out? What are you doing to improve him? And this is something that drives me nuts about Kirk Ferentz in general as a football coach. It's about the system. It's about the system. One of my favorite coaches ever, Mr. Mayer, basketball coach. Back in Osage, back in the day. Won a state championship in 95. Mr. Mayer was somebody that always adapted to the talent that he had on hand. And if you got a team that's got a lot of speed, you got a team that's going to do it a certain way, you got a team that's got height, whatever it is, you got a team of shooters, he's going to adapt to what he has. Kirk Ferentz, there's no adaptation. This is our style. And though they've evolved the passing game, the running game, and what they've done, and at least not been strictly only inside and outside zone plays in the zone blocking scheme, they've evolved past that. It's still not good enough. I mean, look, Minnesota's okay defensively, but let's not make them out to be the 85 Bears. This is not the 2000 Ravens. And I couldn't run the ball against them. The tackles are banged up, and he had another injury this week. Can't run the ball. We've had 5 years now of the new blocking scheme, and it took him 5 years to finally stop pissing and moaning about it and whining that that's not the way it should be. Well, Kirk, you can't do it anymore. And he finally evolved past that. And is it going to take another 5 years? Well, you actually come into the 21st century in your passing game. The scheme is completely broken. Adapt? Oh, God forbid. And with the new Big Ten coming, in the last year of the Big Ten West, to not come into this season with something different, and now in season, to not do anything different. And the Cooper DeJean thing, we were having fun with it. What's it going to hurt? Last year, his idiot son said, hey, what's the upside when he was asked about the quarterback? I'm playing the backup quarterback. Well, the upside is you're not the worst offense in the country. That's the upside. And here you are, you double down, actually triple down on yourself. And you let your little baby boy be able to do his thing. We're going to let him run the offense. Why? Who knows? Any other offensive coordinator in the country would have been fired. Doesn't matter the program, doesn't matter the level. Every single one of them would have been fired. But baby boy, he got another year, and it's cratered again. And what has he done to adjust? Nothing. What has he done to help this team out? What has he done to help his quarterback out? Nothing. He doesn't have the football acumen to be a play caller. He can script plays. You go through those first 12, 15, 20 plays, whatever it is, and you work on them and you practice them, and that is your game plan coming in. But when there's shots being fired, he has no clue. He doesn't know what he's doing. He has no clue what he's doing as a play caller in game. And we see it week after week, year after year. It's the same thing. He doesn't know what he's doing. Brian's not going to be fired. We know that. And if it is, John Budmeier would be the guy that would take over. He's the only other guy that has called plays. There's another issue. You're already limited enough offensively. Do you have anybody else up there that's going to help out? You got Jim Budmeyer, who comes in after being fired after 1 year as an offensive coordinator. That's who you're bringing in. Kelton Copeland's never called plays. Offensive line coach, never called plays. It goes on and on and on. Ineptitude stacked on ineptitude. What does it lead to? More ineptitude. This is the worst offense in the country. Here's a dirty little secret. It was going to be awful, even with Cade McNamara. It was going to be awful because they haven't been able to develop and maintain offensive line, because they have not evolved, because they do not have anything schematically in the passing game that they can figure out. The route concepts are broken. There are things that don't work in college football. Are they going to evolve? Are they going to change? Are they going to try something? Of course not. God forbid you actually try to do something. Actually coach. Actually do some coaching. Nope, just keep doing the same thing. Over and over again. That's what they're going to do. Full circle. Let's talk about the first drive. We didn't get very far in this one. That was throughout the course of the game. And credit to this defense. I mean, they were all over the place. They played so well. Absolutely screwed. A couple of short fields. Give up 2 Deacon Hill fumbles and lead into field goals. This defense deserves so much better. This special teams deserves so much better. They do. But because baby boy needed a job, I guess. And so Kirk can see his grandkids. We have to be subjected to this. It's not fair as a fan. It just isn't. Nepotism is an ugly word. Nepotism is an ugly thing. And we're seeing it play out once again. And now Kirk Ferentz is going to put Beth Getz in an impossible situation. If Kirk does not walk away, he is going to make the new athletic director, somebody that is already beloved on so many camps, from the ability and the understanding of what the future of college athletics is going to be. People inside the athletic department world singing her praises. Coaches at the University of Iowa. Nothing but great things to say. And Kirk, because he likes his boy, he likes to have his grandkids around, is going to put her in an incredibly difficult spot. And that's going to be Kirk Ferentz's legacy. That's what he's going to be remembered by, is this. Yes, we'll remember the great moments, but every time. And it's the same thing with Hayden. Hayden wanted to step away after the great 95 season. Wanted to walk away. And Tim Dwight, Davian Banks, Matt Sherman, and the rest of the crew talked him into coming back for another year. And it was a disappointing year. And then another disappointing year. And then it very quickly cratered. And he had health concerns on top of it. But we still remember that part of it. And this is going to be a part of the legacy that's going to be remembered. And the great what ifs, what this program could have been. We're not asking for the USC offense or Ohio State. Just competency. Just Ken O'Keefe's offense in the odds. What this team could have been with this defense and special teams. Because those defenses and special teams, really outside of 2004 and 2009, were not close to that. And the special teams certainly weren't close to it. He had Darrell Wilson running the special teams. He had a bunch of guys with their hands involved. They have gone to such another level. Speaking of that, remember when LeVar Woods took over as a special teams coordinator? We saw a lot of trick plays and different things. We had the polecat against Ohio State, and the wild play that they ran up in Minnesota. We saw a lot of different things. Is that gone? Maybe we need a welfare check on Kirk Ferentz. You know, when you hear those stories about older people being taken advantage of, maybe he's being taken advantage of by his son. I don't know. I'm just searching for theories here. It's a joke. Joke, people. Don't take that and run with it. It's a joke. All right. Coming back, we take one final look back at the Minnesota game. Well, not one final look back. We'll be talking about this one for a long, long time. What do the numbers say, and where does this team turn from there? We'll do that as we continue here. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. How does it work? You pick between 2 and 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their prize pick projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. And you're not just competing against other people. It's just you versus their projections. As simple as that. You don't have to worry about the pros and the sharks out there making it incredibly difficult to make money. Prize Picks entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks offers a recently improved deposit and withdrawal experience as well, including the option to use Apple Pay for quick deposits into your account. All right, here we go tonight. We got Monday Night Football, and this is what we're going to do. Obviously, with Monday Night Football, 49ers against the Vikings, we got to take a look at the receiving props, and we got to look at the former Hawkeyes. TJ Hawkinson for the Vikings, more or less than 49.5 receiving yards. On the other side for San Francisco, George Kittle, more or less than 47.5 yards receiving in the game. Passing yards, you want to go Cousins, more or less 238.5. And for Brock Purdy, it's 235.5. It's as simple as that, between 2 and 6 players, and not just for the NFL. They have NBA as that gets ready to kick off this week. MLB coming down the stretch with the LCSs. NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball right around the corner, women's college basketball, soccer, and we can go on and on and on. Prize Picks is available in over 30 states and Canada. And it's the best way to have action in some states that don't currently have what we like to talk about from time to time. California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, over 70% of the U.S., you're available to get them on and get aboard with Prize Picks. So what you want to do right now is go to their website. It's prizepicks.com and use the /LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege, and your first deposit match up to $100. That's right. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That is what you have with Prize Picks and obviously looking forward to what should be a fun one tonight in Monday Night Football. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. All right. So the numbers. How did it look? We didn't go through the game as much as I thought. These notes are kind of ugly. Here's the numbers, though, for you. Deacon Hill, a 30.1. Seems high. Grading skill up to 100. He was a 1 of 8 when he was blitzed and 9 of 20 when he was not. How about when he had a clean pocket? 8 of 23 for 70 yards. Bad. Running back. Couldn't get the running game going. Caleb Johnson graded out the best at a 56. That's not good. LaShawn Williams behind him with a 54. Jazion Patterson a 51. Couldn't run the football. Hideous. Best tight end, Johnny Bacuzzi. Look, the tight end position is basically dead here. Addison Ostrenga is the guy that at least has the athleticism to do some of the things that they wanted to do in the past. But Bacuzzi and Stylianos are certainly not stretch kind of tight ends out there. They're a couple of glorified tackles. Wide receiver was the bright spot offensively. I mean, how crazy is that? After what we went through the last 3 weeks, Deontay Fines was excellent. And getting the ball up in space to Vines, it had the play in the end zone that led into a pass interference call. Had the great catch on the sideline. Made a couple other catches out there. He was involved. Hey, look what happens. Pretty good. Nico Raghini was Raghini. We saw the drop from Seth Anderson. Sun was in his face. And at the game, I couldn't tell. That was on the side of the field that I sit on, but couldn't tell at the time. When you watch it in replay, you can see, I mean, they lost the ball in the sun. What are you going to do? That shadow was coming through there. It was a weird spot. And right as the ball came out of the shadow, his eyes were looking right in the sun. Seth Anderson needs to be involved more. I think he's going to be fine. I think he can be a fine offensive lineman. O-line, not great. Logan Jones grades out the best. He was a 68. Pretty solid. Nick DeYoung coming back from injury. He was okay, a 63. Connor Colby, a 59. Rusty Feth, a 52. Jennings Dunker and Mason Richmond, your 2 tackles, they were brutal. 49 and 46. Add it all up, 10 points out of the offense. Defensively, well, things look a little bit better on the defensive side of the football. That defensive line, we certainly wondered about Y.A. Black, and he wasn't the same guy I don't think that we saw the last couple of weeks. He was still solid, though. And playing through that injury, that shoulder injury, let's hope he can be healthy. Deontay Craig, he graded out the highest of the defensive line, followed by Logan Lee, Ethan Herkett, and Joe Evans, along with Aaron Graves. All 5 of those guys over a 71 grade for each and every one of them. That was good. Wyatt was a 67. Pittman finally got out there, got a few snaps. He was a 66, and Llewellyn was the lowest of the defensive line. Look, it wasn't the defense's fault. Linebackers were great. Jay Higgins was great as always. He's an 82. Nick Jackson, a 77. big step forward. Saw a lot of Kyler Fisher. He was a 66.9. He was good in his role when they went to the 4-3. Sebastian Castro, your best defensive back. Numbers not great out of the defensive backfield. Quinn Schulte, a 63. Cooper DeJean, very low with the 49. And Jamari Harris, even worse at 43. Like, I didn't think it was that bad, but that's their grading scale. Those are the numbers, and that's where we are. We're out of here for today. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Bye week this week. We still got you covered. Biz will stop by. We will talk with him. We got LaShawn Daniels. And don't forget, if you're heading to Chicago, we will be there as well. That's right, a live Locked On Hawkeyes podcast coming away from Merkel's on Friday afternoon. Plan to hit record about 2 o'clock. Make sure to stop on out. Great food. Going to have some drink specials. We'll have a great time getting ready for Iowa, getting back on the field against Northwestern. What a locale in Wrigleyville at the Hawkeye Bar of Wrigleyville in Merkel's. Looking forward to that. Myself, LaShawn will be there. We'll see if we can get Biz there a little bit early. Maybe we'll go through and we'll do it. Have 3 different people on the podcast, something we rarely do. Going to be a great time. Looking forward to that. Again, out at Merkel's in Wrigleyville, the Hawkeye Bar in Wrigleyville is where we'll be broadcasting from. I'll be doing my radio show Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then a Locked On Hawkeye show at 2 o'clock. I plan to be there all afternoon, throughout the evening, having fun time, having a few cocktails, and getting well lubricated to watch this offense again against Northwestern. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.